When you have comic book characters who are straight up strong as the sky is blue, you can always rely on the unstoppable force that is the Juggernaut. In 2018's Deadpool 2, we find ourselves a handful of feats to filter through. So let's waste no more time in finding the answer to the big question, how strong is the Juggernaut? For today's episode, we will be analyzing 3 feats in particular: the bus swing, batting Colossus, and the highway destruction. With that in mind, let's talk about some buses. During the final climactic battle between X-Force and the Juggernaut, we see the big man duke it out with Colossus as he swings a bus at him before it bursts through a building. Skipping the frame-by-frame analysis hodgepodge, we can see that Juggernaut swings the bus about 225 degrees in 1.3 seconds. Rearranging some numbers, we find that one revolution would have taken 2.08 seconds. A Type C bus, which most common school buses are, has a length of 9.1 meters. Seen as the Juggernaut grabbed the bus by the front, and the center of mass on the bus would be about 25% from the front, we find that the radius to use is 2.275 meters. In order to find the force output here, we of course need a mass and an acceleration. Type C buses like this vary in weight, but seen as those buses are being used to transport mutants, let's assume this bus is on the heavier side at 29,500 pounds or 13,410 kilograms. In order to find our acceleration, we'll need a circular velocity. Using our radius of 2.275 meters and our time of 2.08 seconds, we can use those numbers and plug them into this equation for circular velocity to give us a speed of 6.87 meters per second. Using that number and plugging into the equation for centripetal acceleration, we find an acceleration of 20.76 meters per second squared. One short multiplication later, and we find a force of 270,383 newtons. For comparison, heavyweight boxer Frank Bruno could hit with the force of 6,316 newtons. This would be like if 44 Frank Brunos hit you all at once. In that same duel, we see the Juggernaut catch a right cross from Colossus before snapping his wrist. While there isn't any good way to analyze this one, I'll be taking a look at it as if the Juggernaut stabbed a bone in Colossus' arm. Seeing as Colossus' skin is comparable to both osmium and carbon steel, we can find a range between the two to determine an average force output here. Assuming that Colossus' forearm bone is the same diameter as normal bones, we can find a radius of 1.27 centimeters. Using the equation for the area of a circle, which is pi times radius squared, we find an area of 5.07 squared centimeters, or 0.000507 meters squared. Looking at the tensile strength of both materials, we find a force range between carbon steel's 278,850 newtons and osmium's 507,000 newtons. Now to crack down this big boy feat, destroying the highway. Skipping through the boring stuff, we can find a total volume of the section affected by the punch is 354.09 meters cubed. Converting this to cubic centimeters, we get 354,090,000 cubic centimeters. Using the violent fragmentation for rock, as it is most comparable to hardened concrete, we can apply the 69 joules per cubic centimeter to the volume of the affected highway and find the total energy output to be 24,432,210,000 joules of energy. This is insane for one punch that clearly wasn't anywhere near Juggernaut's full power. If we want to find out what kind of force we're working with here, we can use the equation for kinetic energy equals force times distance, and rearrange it to find that force equals energy divided by distance. Assuming the distance from the bottom of the truck to the pavement is about a foot, aka 0.305 meters, we can plug this into the equation to find a force output of, get this, 80,105,606,557.377 newtons of force. For comparison, the Saturn V rocket puts out 27 million newtons during blastoff. That means the Juggernaut could casually hit with the power of 2,966.87 rockets blasting off. Heck, that probably wasn't even his full power. Making a bold assumption and saying that he busted out only 5% of his power, A, because he knew he wasn't in danger, B, because he knows he wouldn't have to go full strength, and C, why would he go 100% power in this instance anyway? With that in mind, we can safely assume that his max output would be 1,602,112,100,000 newtons of force. That is a whopping 43,300 Saturn V rockets all at once. If we go back to kinetic energy for just a minute, we find that his maximum output should be 488,644,200,000 joules of energy, or just short of 117 tons of TNT. Comparison, this would be the equivalent of 7.8 Davy Crockett bombs. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to check out our previous videos, you can click any of the links on screen here, or just go back to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.